There's a part of you, a part you may not always recognize, that's stronger than you know. You've felt it before. In those moments when you wanted to break down, but somehow, you didn't. When life pushed you to your limits, yet you kept moving forward, silently, steadily, without asking for applause. You've learned how to hold your ground, even when others tried to shake you. You've walked away from people who drained your energy, not because you didn't care, but because you knew your peace was worth protecting. You've felt the weight of expectations, the pressure to speak louder, to act tougher, to prove your worth. Yet you chose something harder. You chose to stay true to yourself, and maybe no one noticed. Maybe they mistook your calmness for weakness, your kindness for naivety. But deep down, you knew better. Because strength isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the quiet way you refuse to let pain define you. The way you smile even when your heart feels heavy. The way you keep giving, even after life has taken so much. That's not weakness, that's power. And if any of this feels familiar, then there's something you need to know. You are stronger than you think. In this video, I'll share 7 signs that you are a woman with more temperament than others. A woman whose quiet strength is far more powerful than words could ever describe. Let's begin. 1. Self-awareness. There's something undeniably captivating about a woman who truly knows herself. She doesn't have to say much, yet her presence speaks volumes. There's no confusion in her gaze, no hesitation in her step. She's calm, confident, and grounded. And the truth is, you can feel it. Honestly, as a woman myself, I love seeing women like this. There's just something magnetic about a woman who radiates that quiet strength, that unshakable sense of, I know who I am. It's the kind of presence that doesn't scream for attention, yet somehow commands it. So, what's her secret? The answer lies in one powerful trait: self-awareness. Self-awareness isn't just about knowing your name, your job, or what kind of coffee you like. It's about understanding who you are, deeply and honestly. It's knowing what triggers your anxiety, what makes you feel powerful, and what drains your emotional energy. It's recognizing your patterns, the ones that help you grow and the ones that keep pulling you backward. Most importantly, it's about accepting those parts of yourself, the good, the bad, and the messy, without judgment. Women with strong self-awareness aren't perfect. They're just real. They don't pretend to be someone they're not. And that authenticity is what makes them magnetic. When you're self-aware, you stop wasting energy trying to be someone you're not. Instead, you focus on being the best version of yourself, for yourself. You stop seeking validation. You know your worth isn't tied to someone else's approval. Whether people praise you or criticize you, it doesn't shake your sense of identity. You make better decisions. Instead of acting on impulse or letting emotions control you, you step back, reflect, and choose what aligns with your values. You build stronger relationships because you understand yourself. You set clearer boundaries and attract people who respect you for who you are, not who you pretend to be. Want to know if you're already on this path? Here are some signs that you've developed a deep sense of self-awareness. First, you trust your instincts. When something feels off, you listen to that inner voice, not out of paranoia, but because you've learned to trust yourself. Second, you own your mistakes. Instead of blaming others, you reflect on what went wrong and how you can improve. Third, you know what drains you, and you avoid it. Whether it's toxic relationships, negative self-talk, or habits that sabotage your peace, you know when to walk away. Fourth, you don't compare yourself to others. You celebrate your wins, big or small, without measuring them against someone else's timeline. Lastly, You accept your flaws. You're not perfect, and that's okay. You know that growth isn't about eliminating your flaws, but learning how to manage them. Here's the thing. No one's born with perfect self-awareness. It's something you develop, little by little. And the good news is, you can start anytime. One of the best ways to cultivate self-awareness is by practicing mindfulness. Pay attention to your thoughts without judgment. Notice what makes you anxious, what excites you, and what drains you. Mindfulness helps you become aware of your mental habits. And once you're aware, you can start changing them. Another powerful tool is journaling. Writing your thoughts down can reveal patterns you may not see otherwise. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why do I feel this way? Over time, you'll notice recurring themes, and that's where your self-awareness deepens. Don't underestimate the power of asking for honest feedback. Sometimes the people closest to us can see our blind spots better than we can. Ask a trusted friend or mentor, what's one thing you think I should work on? Don't take it personally. Use it as a mirror for growth. Reflection is also key. When you're upset or frustrated, pause before responding. Ask yourself, is this reaction helping me, or is it just feeding my emotions? That moment of reflection can save you from saying or doing something you'll regret. Lastly, embrace solitude. Spending time alone isn't about isolating yourself. It's about giving yourself the space to think, recharge, and reconnect with your inner voice. When you're alone, you get to know who you are, without the noise of other people's expectations. Women with self-awareness don't chase attention, they attract it. There's a calm, quiet confidence about them that people can't ignore. It's not arrogance, it's assurance. And the more self-aware you become, the stronger and more magnetic you'll feel. So if you've ever felt like you're constantly trying to prove yourself, ask yourself this: am I living for others or for me? Because when you know yourself, really know yourself, you stop chasing validation. You start building a life that feels right for you, even if no one else notices. And that's where true strength lies. 2. Self-investment. We often think of investment as something we do with money, stocks, savings, or a retirement fund. But the most powerful investment you can ever make is in yourself. And women with strong temperament understand this deeply. They know that investing in themselves isn't about impressing others. It's about becoming the best version of who they already are. You've probably met a woman like this. She isn't flashy. She doesn't feel the need to constantly prove herself. But there's something about her that feels complete. She radiates a quiet confidence, the kind that comes from knowing she's growing every single day. It's not because she's obsessed with being perfect. She's simply committed to being better than she was yesterday. And that's what makes her unforgettable. The truth is, self-investment doesn't happen overnight. It's not a quick fix or a crash course. It's a lifestyle, a habit of choosing growth in small, consistent ways. Some women spend hours scrolling social media, keeping up with what everyone else is doing. But a woman who invests in herself, she's focused on her own journey, and that's what makes her stand out without even trying. There are countless ways to invest in yourself, but let's focus on the ones that truly matter. Women with strong self-investment habits focus on 3 key areas: health, mind, and knowledge. Let's start with health. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh no, here comes the part where I'm told to wake up at 5 a.m. and drink green smoothies. Relax. That's not what I mean. Investing in your health isn't about following trends. It's about building habits that keep you energized, focused, and strong. It's about respecting your body enough to nourish it, move it, and rest when you need to. It's choosing to eat foods that fuel you instead of those that leave you feeling sluggish. It's deciding to move, whether that's dancing in your living room, stretching for 10 minutes a day, or finding an activity that makes you feel alive. And most importantly, it's about sleep. Yes, sleep. Because let's be honest, no amount of makeup can hide the exhaustion of constantly running on empty. Then, there's your mind. A strong woman knows that her mindset shapes her reality. She doesn't waste energy obsessing over things she can't control. Instead, she focuses on building mental clarity, calmness, and resilience. Meditation, mindfulness, or simply spending 5 quiet minutes a day reflecting can transform your entire mindset. You'd be surprised how powerful those small moments of stillness can be. They give you the ability to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally. They help you build emotional strength, the kind that makes you walk away from pointless arguments because you know your peace isn't worth sacrificing. And finally, knowledge. A woman who invests in her mind never stops learning, not because she wants to appear smarter, but because she knows that knowledge gives her power. She reads books that challenge her thinking. She takes courses that expand her skills. She surrounds herself with people who inspire her to grow. She's not afraid to ask questions, not because she's insecure, but because she's wise enough to know she doesn't have all the answers. And the best part? She's always curious. Curious about life, about people, and most importantly, about herself. She knows that curiosity is what keeps her growing when others stop. But here's the key. A woman who invests in herself isn't doing it for applause. She's not building her body to show off in selfies. She's not filling her mind with knowledge just to impress people at dinner parties. She's doing it for one reason, because she knows she's worth it. She values herself enough to prioritize her growth, and that's what makes her magnetic. You might be thinking, okay, this sounds great, but where do I even start? Start small. Choose one habit today. Just one. Maybe it's drinking more water. Maybe it's putting your phone down 30 minutes before bed. Maybe it's starting your morning with 5 minutes of stillness. The point isn't to overwhelm yourself. It's to build momentum. Because the truth is, confidence doesn't come from knowing everything or looking perfect. It comes from that quiet feeling of pride you get when you know you're taking care of yourself, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And here's the best part. The more you invest in yourself, the less you'll feel the need to chase approval. You'll stop worrying about impressing others because you'll know you're already showing up as the best version of yourself. That's the kind of energy that turns heads without you even trying. So the next time you find yourself doubting your worth, ask yourself this: am I taking care of me? Because when you commit to investing in yourself, not just once, but consistently, you become unstoppable. Not because you're louder, tougher, or more dramatic, but because you're grounded in something far stronger: self-respect. And that's the kind of power no one can take away from you. 3. Emotional independence. I know, emotions are tricky. Sometimes they feel impossible to control. One moment you're fine, and the next, tears, frustration, or overwhelming sadness can hit you like a wave. It's normal. It's human. You've probably heard that expressing your emotions is natural. But here's the truth. Learning how to manage them is strength. And that strength is what sets certain women apart. Emotional independence isn't about pretending to be happy all the time. It's not about forcing a smile when you're breaking inside. No, emotional independence is about allowing yourself to feel fully, honestly, without letting those feelings take control of your life. If you're sad, be sad. If you're angry, feel that anger. Cry if you need to, vent if you must. But the real power lies in what comes next. The moment you decide to stop dwelling and start moving forward. The moment you recognize that while your emotions are valid, they don't get to control your future. A woman with emotional independence knows this truth. Her feelings are hers to experience, but they are not her identity. She doesn't let a bad mood ruin her entire day. She doesn't let heartbreak convince her she's unworthy. She doesn't hand over her peace of mind to someone else's words or actions. And most importantly, she knows that no one, absolutely no one, has the power to decide how she feels, because her emotions are her responsibility, no one else's. I know that sounds easier said than done. We're wired to react, to lash out when we're hurt, to cling to someone when we feel lonely, or to spiral into self-doubt when things go wrong. But here's the thing. Emotional independence isn't about ignoring those feelings. It's about noticing them, understanding them, and deciding how you'll respond. Think of it like driving a car. Your emotions, they're the passengers. Sometimes they're calm, quiet, and relaxed. Other times they're shouting, crying, or panicking. But here's the key. You're still the one behind the wheel. You get to decide where you're going, no matter how loud those emotions get. So how do you build that kind of strength? Start by practicing awareness. The next time you feel overwhelmed, pause. Don't push the feeling away. Just notice it. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And why am I feeling this way? Sometimes the reason will be clear. Maybe someone hurt your feelings. Maybe you're overwhelmed at work. Or maybe you're just tired. But sometimes, emotions creep in without warning. And that's okay. What matters is that you give yourself a moment to recognize those feelings before they take control. Once you're aware of what's happening inside you, the next step is to separate your feelings from your actions. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to act on it. Let's say someone says something hurtful. Your instinct might be to snap back, to match their negativity with your own. But what if, instead, you paused and asked yourself, what do I gain from reacting like this? Will it make me feel better, or will it just drag me down further? Emotional independence isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about giving yourself the power to decide how you respond to them. And yes, sometimes emotions are heavy. Loss, heartbreak, disappointment. They can weigh you down like a storm cloud that won't pass. But remember this, no feeling lasts forever. The pain you're feeling right now, it will pass. The sadness that feels unbearable, it will fade. Emotions are temporary guests, not permanent residents. When you accept that truth, you stop fearing your feelings. You stop running from them, and instead, you learn how to sit with them, and then let them go. One of the most powerful habits you can build is learning how to comfort yourself. Emotional independence doesn't mean you never need support. It means you know how to give yourself that support first. Maybe it's listening to music that calms you down. Maybe it's going for a walk, journaling your thoughts, or simply reminding yourself. I've been through hard things before, and I'll get through this too. The more you practice comforting yourself, the less dependent you'll be on others to make you feel better. And that's real power, a self-sufficient woman doesn't shut people out. She just knows that her happiness isn't anyone else's responsibility. If someone disappoints her, she doesn't fall apart, because she's learned how to stand on her own. If someone leaves, she doesn't lose her sense of self, because she's built her identity around who she is, not who she's with. She knows that real strength isn't about avoiding pain. It's about trusting herself to survive it. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, remember this. Your emotions are real, but they're not in charge. You are. And no matter how chaotic things feel in the moment, you are still the one behind the wheel. You have the power to choose your thoughts, your actions, and your peace. Emotional independence isn't just about strength. It's about freedom. The freedom to feel everything, joy, sadness, anger, hope, without being controlled by any of it. And that kind of freedom, it makes you unstoppable. 4. Calmness in adversity. I have always admired women who have faced hardship and somehow kept their calm. Women who silently carried their burdens without letting the world see how much they were struggling. There's something remarkable about that strength. Not the kind that's loud and obvious, but the quiet kind that keeps going even when life feels impossible. I know this because I've been that woman. I remember facing some of the hardest moments in my life alone. Moments when no one knew how much I was holding inside. Times when I had no choice but to stay strong. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. There was no one to rely on, no one to pick up the pieces for me. I had to learn how to be calm when my world felt like it was falling apart. And now, looking back, I realized that those moments didn't break me. They made me stronger. I remember one night in particular, sitting alone in my apartment, staring at my phone, waiting for news I knew wouldn't come. It was one of those nights where you just feel empty, the kind where you question if you'll ever feel normal again. But somehow, I got through it. Not because I suddenly felt better, but because I told myself, this won't last forever. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew I had survived enough to believe that I could handle whatever came next. Over time, that mindset became part of me. I stopped panicking when things went wrong. I stopped spiraling when life didn't go my way. I learned that the calmer I stayed, the clearer I could think, and the better my decisions became. It wasn't that I stopped feeling. I just stopped letting my feelings control me. I built a wall around my peace, and no one could take it from me. Later, when I met my current partner, he told me that my calmness was one of the things he admired most about me. He said he could tell, just from the way I handled conflict, that I had faced hard times before, and he was right. Because calmness isn't something you're born with. It's something you earn by surviving what once felt unbearable. I know many women who've experienced this same kind of growth. Women who've had to carry financial stress on their own. Women who've navigated painful breakups without support. Women who've quietly faced family struggles, loss, or betrayal, and somehow kept showing up for themselves and the people they love. They didn't do it because they wanted to. They did it because they had no other choice. And that kind of strength leaves a mark. It's the reason these women don't panic over small things anymore. They've seen worse and survived it. It's why they don't argue over petty drama. They know where their energy belongs. And it's why they seem so calm, because they've learned that panic solves nothing. If you've ever wondered how to build that kind of calmness, here's what I've learned. First, accept that life will never be perfect. Things will go wrong. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall apart. And sometimes the hardest moments will come out of nowhere. But here's the thing. Most situations aren't as urgent as they feel. When something unexpected happens, pause. Don't react immediately. Give yourself a moment, even if it's just 10 seconds, to breathe and remind yourself, I can handle this. Because you can. And the calmer you stay, the stronger you'll feel. Second, learn how to sit with discomfort. Most of us panic because we want to escape pain as quickly as possible. But sometimes, the best thing you can do is simply allow yourself to feel it, without fighting it. Whether it's sadness, frustration, or fear, let it come, but don't let it take over. Remind yourself that this feeling won't last forever. The more you accept discomfort, the less power it has over you. It's like building muscle. The more you practice sitting with difficult emotions, the stronger your emotional endurance becomes. Another powerful habit? Focus on what you can control. When you're overwhelmed, your mind will try to fix everything at once, and that's when panic sets in. But the truth is, you can't control everything, and you don't have to. Focus on what's right in front of you. Ask yourself, what's one small step I can take right now to feel calmer? Maybe it's stepping away from the situation to clear your mind. Maybe it's writing your thoughts down to release the tension. Maybe it's simply reminding yourself, I've survived worse. Because if you're still here, if you've made it this far, you've already proven your strength. And finally, protect your peace like it's priceless. Because it is. Not everyone deserves access to your mind, your energy, or your time. Set boundaries. Not because you're cold, but because you know how hard you've worked to build your calmness. You don't have to justify your silence. You don't owe an explanation when you walk away from toxic conversations or refuse to engage in pointless drama. Peace is your responsibility, and no one can protect it for you but you. The truth is, calmness isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's knowing that you don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to panic to show you care. And you don't have to prove yourself to anyone who doesn't respect your peace. So the next time life tries to shake you, remember this. You faced hard times before and you're still here, and that quiet strength, that's what makes you powerful. 5. Knowing when to say. No, trust me, learning how to say no will make your life so much lighter. I know this because I wasn't always good at it. For a long time, I thought saying yes was the right thing to do, the polite thing to do. But instead of feeling helpful or appreciated, I often felt drained, overwhelmed, and even resentful. I remember when it started. As a kid, I'd say yes to helping classmates with their homework, even when I had piles of my own. In college, I agreed to join campus activities I had zero interest in, just to avoid disappointing anyone. And when I started working, I became the go-to person for extra tasks. One time, a colleague handed me a stack of paperwork and said, "I have a date tonight. Can you finish this for me?" And guess what? I said yes. But the worst part? I wasn't just giving away my time. I was giving away my energy, my focus, and my peace of mind. I even lent money to family members knowing they'd never pay me back. Yet I still couldn't bring myself to say no. Then I met my friend, a woman I deeply admire. She was calm, confident, and unapologetic about her boundaries. She said no with grace and never felt the need to explain herself. I remember one afternoon when a mutual friend asked her to cover an event at the last minute. Without hesitation, she smiled and said, "I can't. I've got other priorities right now." There was no guilt in her voice, no awkwardness, just calm certainty. I envied her strength, and I knew I had to learn from her. The truth is, saying no isn't easy, especially when you're used to being the yes person. You fear disappointing others. You worry they'll think you're selfish. But here's what I've learned. Saying no isn't rejection, it's respect. Respect for your time, your energy, and your mental peace. And when you start practicing it, you'll realize something powerful. The right people will understand. The wrong people? Well, they'll reveal themselves. So, how do you build that kind of confidence? Start small. The next time someone asks you for something you can't or simply don't want to do, pause. Instead of answering immediately, say, "Let me get back to you." This gives you time to think instead of reacting out of habit. Ask yourself, if I say yes, what will I have to sacrifice? If the answer is your energy, your time, or your peace, that's your sign to say no. You don't need to justify your decision with long explanations. A simple, "I can't right now," or "that doesn't work for me," is enough. You owe no one an apology for protecting your well-being. Of course, people won't always like it. Some may guilt you, others may push back. But remember this: anyone who makes you feel guilty for setting boundaries isn't respecting you. They're controlling you. And you deserve better than that. The more you practice saying no, the more natural it becomes. And surprisingly, you'll notice something incredible. People start to respect you more. Why? Because clear boundaries signal self-respect. When you respect yourself, others follow suit. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But what if I lose friends? What if people get upset? And yes, that might happen. But here's the thing. The people who leave because you've started prioritizing yourself, they were never truly there for you. The friends who genuinely care will understand. They'll know that your no isn't personal. It's just you taking care of yourself. Saying no also opens space for better things. When you stop filling your calendar with obligations that drain you, you create room for experiences that excite you, for people who uplift you, and for moments that genuinely bring you joy. I can't tell you how freeing it feels to say no without guilt. To know that your time belongs to you. To know that you're no longer stuck in cycles of overcommitting just to make others happy. Because happiness isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about living in alignment with what truly matters to you. So if you're struggling to say no, remember this. Your peace is worth protecting. Your energy is precious. And anyone who respects you will respect your boundaries too. Saying no isn't selfish. It's smart. It's how you make space for what truly deserves your yes. 6. Know how to control. Negative energy. Negative energy is something we all face. It's sneaky, sometimes creeping in through our own thoughts, other times seeping into our lives through the people we surround ourselves with. And the hardest part? It doesn't always announce itself. You may not even realize how much negativity has built up inside you, until one day you wake up feeling exhausted, irritable, or just empty. I remember my friend going through this. After a painful breakup, she was drowning in negativity, not just sadness, but an overwhelming sense of hopelessness. At first, I thought it was normal. We all need time to heal, right? But weeks turned into months, and she couldn't seem to pull herself out of it. She wasn't just sad, she was consumed by negativity. Her energy felt heavy, her mind clouded. She stopped laughing, stopped connecting with friends, and even stopped taking care of herself. I saw her body change. She lost weight rapidly. Her skin turned pale, and her once vibrant personality seemed dimmed. Negativity was eating away at her, and she didn't even realize it. Here's the thing. Negative energy doesn't just live in your mind. It shows up in your body, your mood, and even your relationships. And if you don't learn how to control it, it will control you. The first step is recognizing where that negativity is coming from. Sometimes it's obvious, like heartbreak, failure, or disappointment. Other times it's subtle, a friend who constantly complains, a coworker who spreads gossip, or even the endless stream of bad news on your phone. The tricky part is, negative energy doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's just a quiet feeling of frustration, resentment, or anxiety that lingers in the background. Once you identify the source, the next step is learning how to separate yourself from it. And no, I don't mean ignoring it. I mean facing it directly. Ask yourself, is this something I can change? If the answer is yes, focus on what's in your control. Maybe you need to set boundaries with toxic people, limit your time scrolling through bad news, or start saying no to obligations that drain you. If the answer is no, if the situation is completely out of your hands, then you must learn to let go, not for their sake, but for yours. One of the most powerful ways to control negative energy is to change your response to it. Think of negativity like fire. The more you fuel it with anger, frustration, or overthinking, the bigger it grows. But when you stay calm, when you refuse to react emotionally, the fire has nothing to burn, and it dies down on its own. I remember a time when a friend of mine would call me every week just to vent. It was always the same: drama, complaints, endless negativity. Every time I hung up the phone, I felt drained. Eventually, I realized her negativity was seeping into my own mindset. So, I set a boundary. I told her I couldn't take those late-night venting sessions anymore. I still cared about her, but I couldn't keep sacrificing my own peace. And you know what? She actually respected my boundary. Surprisingly, she started becoming more mindful about how often she unloaded her problems on me. The truth is, some people aren't even aware they're spreading negative energy. It's not always intentional, but that doesn't mean you have to accept it. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. Another powerful habit? Focus on what lifts you. Negative energy thrives in empty spaces, idle time, unproductive routines, or moments when you're just sitting with your thoughts. The best way to counteract that is to fill your life with things that fuel you. Whether that's exercise, reading, meditation, or spending time with positive people. The more you surround yourself with light, the less room negativity has to grow. One practice that's changed my life is learning to filter my thoughts. I used to believe every negative thought that crossed my mind. But now I've learned to challenge them. When I catch myself thinking, I'm not good enough, or I'll never figure this out, I ask myself, is this true, or is this just fear talking? More often than not, those negative thoughts are just noise, and the moment I recognize that, they lose their power. Lastly, never underestimate the power of your environment. Negative energy can linger in your space. Clutter, unfinished tasks, or even just staying in a room that reminds you of bad memories can weigh you down. Clearing out your space, physically and mentally, can do wonders for your energy. Open the windows, clean your desk, rearrange your room if you must. Creating a fresh, positive space can help you reset your mind too. You see, controlling negative energy isn't about pretending to be happy all the time. It's about learning to manage what's within your control and letting go of what isn't. It's about recognizing that you don't have to carry every burden, fight every battle, or fix every problem. Some things are simply not yours to hold. So, if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, if negativity seems to be clinging to you, remember this. You have more power than you think. You can choose what you focus on. You can choose who you allow into your space. And you can choose to protect your peace, no matter what life throws your way. Negative energy may knock at your door, but you don't have to let it stay. 7. Shining through kindness. There's something undeniably beautiful about a woman who radiates kindness. Not the kind that asks for attention, but the quiet, effortless kind that flows from within. It's the way she greets strangers with a warm smile, how she softens her tone when speaking to someone nervous, or the way she shows compassion without expecting anything in return. I remember one afternoon when I saw this in action. I was sitting at a park bench, just watching the world go by. Across the path, I noticed a young woman kneeling beside an elderly man. He looked distressed. His breathing was heavy, and his cane had fallen to the side. Without hesitation, this woman knelt down and placed a hand on his shoulder. She spoke softly, asking if he needed help. The old man nodded, embarrassed but grateful. She didn't make a scene, no shouting for attention, no fuss. She simply picked up his cane, helped him to his feet, and walked beside him for a while to make sure he was okay. And then she just left. No waiting for praise, no need for thanks. She just smiled, waved goodbye, and went on with her day. That moment stuck with me. Not because it was flashy or dramatic, but because it was so pure. That's the kind of kindness that leaves a mark. Quiet, genuine, and unforgettable. Kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about the little things, the simple acts that most people overlook. It's the way you pause to hold the door open when someone's arms are full. It's asking your coworker how they're really doing, not just out of politeness, but because you genuinely care. It's sending a quick text to a friend you haven't heard from in a while just to say, "Hey, I was thinking about you." Kindness doesn't just make others feel good. it changes you too. When you give from the heart, you feel lighter, more connected, more at peace. There's a quiet confidence that grows when you know you're adding something positive to the world, no matter how small. But here's what I've learned. Kindness isn't always easy. There will be moments when you don't feel like giving, when you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. And in those moments, kindness becomes a choice to rise above your own struggles and offer something good, even when it's hard. I remember a friend of mine going through one of the toughest times in her life, a difficult breakup, a stressful job, and family issues all hitting her at once. She could have withdrawn, focused only on her own pain, and honestly, no one would have blamed her. But instead, she chose to pour her energy into kindness. She started volunteering at a local shelter, cooking meals for families in need. On weekends, she'd bake cookies for her neighbors, just to brighten their day. At first, I didn't understand why she was doing so much when her own life felt so heavy. But one day she told me, "Being kind is the only thing keeping me strong, right now." That's the beauty of kindness. It doesn't just heal others. It heals you too. It grounds you. It reminds you that no matter how hard life gets, you still have the power to make someone else's day better. And in doing so, you remind yourself that you're stronger than your struggles. But kindness doesn't mean being a pushover. It's not about saying yes to everyone or sacrificing your boundaries. Real kindness comes from a place of strength, knowing when to give, but also knowing when to step back. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is walk away from toxic people or refuse to enable harmful behavior. Because true kindness isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about being true to yourself while still showing compassion. If you want to shine through kindness, start with the simple things. Compliment someone's effort, not just their success. Thank the cashier who's been on their feet all day. Show patience with the driver who's clearly having a tough morning. These small moments matter more than you realize. And when you feel drained, when kindness feels impossible, remember this: you don't have to give from an empty cup. Sometimes, being kind to yourself is the most powerful act of kindness there is. It's knowing when to rest, when to set boundaries, and when to remind yourself that you're doing enough. The truth is, people won't always remember what you said, and they may not even remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And when you lead with kindness, you leave behind a warmth that lingers long after you're gone. So go ahead. Be that woman who smiles at strangers, who listens without judgment, who loves without conditions. Because there's nothing more powerful or more beautiful than a heart that chooses kindness, even when it's easier to turn away. Life has a way of testing us, not just through challenges, but through the quiet moments where we choose who we become. Each of the 7 signs we've explored isn't just about appearing strong or confident. It's about becoming a woman who carries herself with quiet power, deep self-respect, and unwavering grace. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to sacrifice your peace to prove your worth. And you don't need to chase approval to know you're valuable. True strength is found in knowing yourself, investing in your growth, and mastering the power to control your emotions, your energy, and your focus. It's found in the calm you maintain when life turns chaotic, in the quiet refusal to let pain define you. But most of all, true strength is found in kindness, the courage to keep giving, even when the world hasn't been kind to you. Because when you choose compassion over bitterness, calm over conflict, and self-respect over people-pleasing, that's when you truly shine. If these lessons resonate with you, I invite you to share your thoughts below. What experiences have shaped your strength? What challenges have helped you discover your own resilience? Your story may be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Remember this: you are stronger than you know, wiser than you realize, and more powerful than you think. And the more you embrace that, the more you'll see. You were never just surviving. You were becoming.